He was the first person to ever say those iconic words. Live from New York. It's Saturday night. Live from New York, it's Saturday night. Chevy Chase was born into America's richest families, but his childhood was pure hell. His mother would wake him up just to slap him. She locked him in closets and basement for days. By age 14, he'd been expelled from 5 schools. Then came Saturday Night Live. In 1975, one night an actor didn't show up. Chevy stepped in with a crossed-out cue card that wasn't supposed to happen. That mistake made him famous overnight. But what happened next would destroy friendships, spark violent fights, and reveal a dark side that Hollywood tried to bury. Chevy Chase was born into a world of wealth but not comfort. His full name was Cornelius Crane Chase, and he entered the world on October 8, 1943 in Manhattan. His mother was a talented concert pianist and his father edited books. Both came from the Vanderbilt Crane line, one of America's richest families. Summers were spent at Castle Hill, a mansion with 59 rooms that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. But inside the walls of his own home, Chevy said he was terrified almost every day. His mother would sometimes wake him in the middle of the night just to slap him. She locked him in closets. After he got suspended from school at 14, she locked him in the basement for days, giving him only a pitcher of water. His stepfather, Dr. John Cedarquist, added to the cruelty. 5. Every evening, Chevy would receive 10 lashes like it was part of a schedule. And even though his family had money all around them, his grandfather left nothing to his mother. Chevy grew up watching the fortune slip further away, right through his fingers. There's a wild story that keeps popping up about Chevy being stabbed 3 times in a fight when he was 8. Supposedly it happened in Harlem, but no police report ever mentioned it. And his official biographies don't either. Not even his own writers and fact-checkers have gone digging through old newspapers and court records from that year. Nothing. Just more stories about slaps and broken noses, not knives. Still, people keep repeating it. Maybe because the truth about his childhood was already so rough that adding a knife fight almost made sense. But until someone finds actual proof, it's just another rumor. When Chevy was 4, his world took another hit. His parents got divorced. His father remarried quickly, this time into the Folders Coffee family. That meant even more money on that side of the fence, and Chevy only saw his dad 2 Sundays a month. Meanwhile, his mother kept moving on, marrying more men. In 1956, she married the strict psychoanalyst who would become Chevy's stepfather. That meant more rules, more punishment, and a home that never felt safe. By the time he was 10, Chevy had already been to 3 different elementary schools. Every summer he was sent off again to Massachusetts or New Hampshire or Long Island. Felt like the ground was always shifting. He couldn't settle in. Even by the time he graduated high school in 1962, he had been kicked out of some of the top prep schools in the country. At one point he had changed schools 5 times. He once said that nothing in his life ever felt steady. His nickname didn't come from an agent or some Hollywood script. It came from his grandmother. She loved a town in Maryland called Chevy Chase and started calling her grandson that around 1945. That town actually got its name from an old English ballad about a bloody border fight in the Chevat Hills. So the name Chevy Chase came from 2 places at once, a posh suburb and a medieval war story. It's funny how that combination of upper-class shine and violent chaos would later match his comedy style so well. Even in high school, he had a reputation as a prankster. At the Stockbridge School, yearbooks called him the king of jokes. But his jokes weren't always harmless. He loved shock value. At Ford College, one of his roommates remembered Him doing cafeteria skits that involved forks and body parts. He'd throw himself down staircases just to get a laugh. That kind of physical comedy became his trademark later, but it started early. One of his most infamous pranks happened at Phillips' exit. He and a few friends managed to drag a Volkswagen Beetle, yes, a full car, into the school's chapel and leave it under the pulpit. Before a big assembly, the car was still running when it was discovered at 6 o'clock in the morning. School was canceled. While workers tried to figure out how to remove it, they had to dismantle part of a doorway just to get it out. Chevy was expelled immediately, ending a long family tradition of Chasemen attending exit. He was just 17. That fall he tried again at Ford College, but by the following spring he was kicked out once more. This time he and a group of students somehow let a full-grown cow up to the third floor of their dorm building. The problem is that cows don't like going downstairs. The poor animal had to be sedated and lifted out the window. It left behind hoof marks and piles of manure. The cleanup cost over $1,000. The school expelled him for endangerment and property damage. Years later, Chevy called the whole thing utterly unfair. Still, he wanted to finish college. In January 1963, he enrolled at Beaver College, but by May, he was out again, this time for forging chapel attendance cards. He had faked 64 of them. After getting rejected from several other schools, Chevy finally managed to get into Bard College that fall. A cousin on the board pulled some strings and Chevy was allowed in on probation. That was his third attempt at freshman year in less than 3 years. Bard, things started to click. On Halloween in 1967, he played drums at a college gig with two fellow students, Donald Fagen and Walter Becker. Their band was called Leather Canary. They were loud, messy, and didn't think much of their sound. Fagen later said one of their songs was so bad it convinced them to start writing their own music. That decision would eventually lead to Steely Dan. Chevy didn't stick with the group. He said they were just a bad jazz band with louder amps. But in photos from that night you can see him grinning behind the drum kit, a cigarette hanging from his mouth, totally unaware that he was on stage with future rock legends. After college, in '67, he jumped between anything that paid rent. He delivered packages on motorcycles, drove trucks, moved furniture, rang up, produced, sold wine, taught tennis, mixed drinks in a lesbian bar, and even worked as an usher in a theater. He collected rejection letters from agents and stapled them above the kitchen sink just to stay motivated. By 1972, he was eating canned pasta most nights and still finding time to play midnight jazz gigs with a group called Chameleon Church. The pay was lousy, maybe $40 a night, but it kept him moving. All those odd jobs taught him how to fall, literally. The same clumsy moves that got him laughs on Saturday Night Live were sharpened on slippery staircases and clunky loading docks. The first real comedy paycheck didn't come until 1975. It was $600 for writing gags on a short-lived revival of the Smothers Brothers.